Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry to make a video in the dark, but it is what it is. I'm driving. This is when I get out of work today. about half hour ago, a little bit less, 20 minutes ago is when I left. I'm on my way home, and schedule's a little funny with the new baby and everything, but it is what it is. We had a great question today. A comment on one of the videos, even though it's a little bit late, but it's never too late to talk in Torah. And I'm going to be intellectually honest here and not politically correct in my answer. However, since we're going to be talking about Jewish law and stuff, kind of is what it is. So the question is, I don't think people are going to be that offended as much as when I'm politically incorrect other times talking about politics. When it comes to the question of eating in the sukkah on shmini atzeres, one of our dear friends here asked, it seems that most of the Hasidim, except for Chabad Lubavitch, which is fascinating, that they actually doing something right for once, do not eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres, and some people are pretty strict not to eat in the sukkah. They go out of their way not to eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. And what are we actually supposed to do? How are we supposed to conduct ourselves, and why is it that so many Hasidim don't? And I'll be honest with you, the halacha is you're supposed to eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. Satmar Rav discussed this, even though he himself, most of his life, did not eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. He taught as follows. He said the halacha is you have to eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres, and there's nothing wrong with being in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. However, that meaning outside of the Holy Land, you have to eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. However, just like it is during the rest of the holiday of Sukkot, that if there's any type of discomfort, that one is exempt from being in the sukkah, so too, if one has discomfort, one is exempt from being in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. And that's really what it comes down to. And he offered a historical idea that perhaps, in the old days, the Rebbes had pretty small sukkahs, and the Hasidim wanted to be with their Rebbes on shmini atzeres, and so it was easier to conduct a tish inside the Bais Medrash than, I don't know how big the Batei Medrash were, and I don't know where they feared tish. I don't know if they moved chairs around like they do today and put up bleachers and stuff. I don't know what the history is of that, but I guess that's generally what it was that there was more room. There wasn't so much room in the sukkah, and so that's why they were lenient about eating in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. But the truth of the matter is, in general, the Ashkenazim quite often did not eat in the sukkah on shmini atzeres, even though they knew they were supposed to. And certain people try to justify it by claiming it could be Bal Tosef, or that you didn't really mean it when you're davening Tfilas Geshem, or something like that. But the truth of the matter is, you're supposed to be in the sukkah on shmini atzeres. So certain people had the minhag to be in the sukkah only in the daytime, but not at night. And all these things, a lot of these things would tend to be family customs, to the point where I remember one shul rabbi said to us, he said, if you eat gebroks on Pesach, you have to eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres. You could be strict in both ways, not eat gebroks and eat in the sukkah. You can't be lenient on both. It's really not true. There's not one connection to the other. There's no halachic requirement to avoid eating gebroks. It's just a minhag. But there is a halachic ramification that you're supposed to eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres. And so my local Rav, he davens Nusach Sfard. He doesn't eat gebroks, but he doesn't wear a gartel, doesn't wear a streimel. But he doesn't eat gebroks, but he's very makbid to eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres. But you're supposed to eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres. There's no halachic excuse to not eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres that doesn't exist during the rest of Sukkot. And so that's what it was, the Satmarov's limit schus, is to say that the 8th day is derabanan. And so if one is genuinely exempt on the first 7 days for a legitimate reason to be exempt from eating in the sukkah, and even if one chooses not to accept that legitimate exemption during the first 7 days, one may still rely on such an exemption on Shmini atzeres, and that's essentially is the Satmarov's view. Like I said, Lamaisa, throughout most of his life, he didn't eat in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres, but once his community grew very much in America, he found it to be more convenient to be in the sukkah on Shmini atzeres. This way, he wouldn't have to move around the tables and chairs and have room for hakafas, which he also had on Shmini atzeres. And so therefore, he would conduct the tish in the sukkah. The fact of the matter was, on Simchas Torah, he also would conduct the tish in the sukkah, just he put the shlak on. So it wasn't a sukkah at the time. But in Shmini atzeres, he followed like the Gemara says. We sit in the sukkah, and we don't make a bracha leishav b'sukkah. There's a bigger question, or what I would say though, is the other way around. Many Hasidic Rebbes, including the Satmarov, including the Kloisenberger Rebbe, and many other tzaddikim, would eat in the sukkah during Sukkot even if it was pouring rain. And you're not allowed to do that. And certainly, I mean, it's a stupid thing to do, is what the Chazal say. But certainly to make a bracha leishav b'sukkah in such a situation, or like certain people do, which I did for a while, is you would go out in the sukkah, make leishav b'sukkah, and then go back in the house if it's raining. Poskim say that's a bracha l'vatala. The Chavos Yorah brings like that and so forth. And so certain people just won't make kiddush, which is also not the halacha. You're exempt from the sukkah the time you make kiddush and you eat normally. And this, to be strict to not even drink a glass of water outside the sukkah is fine, and it's a ma'aseh chasidus. It's a pious act, and it's good to do. It's not required. You're allowed to drink water outside the sukkah, but if you want to be extra pious, there's nothing wrong with that exertion of extra piety. All of those types of things have to be measured and informed, because there are certain times when you're not allowed to exert extra piety. But all these things have to be well informed. The fascinating thing is that most poskim hold you're not allowed to sleep in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. That could be a question of Bal Tosef. However, the Vilner Gaon actually said, no, you are supposed to sleep in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres as well. And again, that comes down to, questions of tsar. And where you live. And there were many years I slept every night in the sukkah, on sukkahs, and many years when I didn't. And each year it depends on how cold it is and how likely it's going to rain, etc. I always regret when I don't sleep in the sukkah. Like this year, I didn't lay down to sleep in the sukkah. I took naps on the table, and I regret that because it's the right thing to do. You're supposed to sleep in the sukkah. That's one thing Chabad gets wrong, and their reasoning is quite ridiculous, to be honest. Quoting the Zohar out of context and applying it halachically, it's a strange thing. And there are other Dalzer Chassidim also, I think, have a similar thing, that they don't sleep in the sukkah. But you're supposed to sleep in the sukkah, and I don't mind to say that it's wrong. The conduct of different rebbes and Chassidim and tzaddikim, but what I appreciate about the Satmar Rav is that he had the intellectual honesty to admit that it's wrong. And it's only justified at a time when it would be justified under any other circumstance to not eat in the sukkah, which exists, and that's fine. So that's pretty much my take on the issue. And again, what did I do this year? Certain years, every year I do different, I'll be honest. This year I made Kiddush in the house at Shmini Atzeres. It was cold out at night. It was uncomfortable in the sukkah. And it was hard to get my kids to go out in the sukkah with me. They didn't want to go out to the sukkah at night, so we didn't. I made Kiddush inside, I ate inside, and I ate a kazayas out in the sukkah, but I didn't eat the whole Suda in the sukkah. But during the day of Shmini Atzeres, I pretty much spent the whole day in the sukkah. Once I got home from shul, I pretty much didn't leave the sukkah until it was time to go back to shul, which we davened outside in the tent, not in the sukkah, but in a regular tent. And that's what, so when I say going to shul, we weren't really in the shul. What else do we want to say here? That's pretty much it. You are supposed to be in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. The excuses not to are weak, but legitimate to a certain extent. However, the opinions that one is not allowed to are illegitimate. However, there are other things to have in mind. Let's say, it's the issue of kibbud av v'em, right? You're a 13-year-old bacher, or a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. You're in your parents' house for Yontiv, and they don't want to go out to the sukkah. You don't have to make a scene. Kibbud av v'em comes first, unless they specifically say you could go. You could do it, but we're not going, and if that's fine, and again, that could be enough of a legitimate tsar to be patur from the sukkah in general, and so forth. I mean, this year, I know a lot of my friends who live in apartment buildings in Queens told me that usually they would share one sukkah for the whole apartment building. They didn't have the opportunity to do that this year. And so they're Rav told them they were patur from the sukkah. And that's how they handled it. So it's pretty much the story. So tell me if you have any other issues with these questions. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We will let me know. If you have any other questions in this matter, and I'm sorry for being disrespectful, but it's we have a Chazal, we have the Rambam, we have the Shulchan Aruch. But again, and also it's a bigger issue. I would say that people who do stay in the sukkah under circumstances we're not supposed to, which again, it's something I've been guilty of in past years. So these are things to consider. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you all later.